Okay. Okay. Go ahead and open up, Christy.
Lord, we thank you for another opportunity just to sit and to be taught, receive instruction, Lord God, as we grow, as you continue to mature us and sanctify us. Um, I personally thank you, Lord, for just helping me make it here today. You know where each one of us are in our walk with you, in our studies, in our life, Lord God, and I just ask that you would meet each one of us at our point of need. I lift up Paul to you, I lift up Aisha to you, and I pray, Lord God, that they would make it safely here, and that you would use your servant tonight, Johan, and speak through him. So, God, we thank you and we praise you for who you are, and we bless your holy name. In Yeshua's name we pray.
Amen. Okay.
Oh,
So, you guys won't believe what I did. I lost the outline. So,
we really gonna lose you.
no. I have backups. Don't worry. I have. No, I had the outline. I was finishing it up at work, and it was ready to go, and I left it at work. Sorry though,
It happens.
because I still have the framework of what I need. Really, communion. It can be really complex. It's complex to understand. Because you can read it and you can get what he's saying, but communion it's a lifestyle, and it's something that you have to put into practice. And all these things that we've been talking about with the spirit and the soul and all that stuff, it all comes into play with communion. So, when we talk about this topic, this really is the most important part of prayer. Without communion, there is no prayer. There's no true prayer. Okay. Um, so there's four components of prayer. This is going to be the first one. So, what did you guys? What do you guys remember? And I'm always going to start with, what do you guys remember from what you read? I heard you say a little bit, Christy. Um, but what were some of the main things that kind of stood out to you?
Honestly, I can't I can't tell you right now.
Mhm.
I highlighted a lot.
Okay.
Um,
And that's okay. This is while you're learning about communion, you're also learning about how to study uh, in this class. This is year one, but not that's not to give you an excuse for not knowing stuff. But you're learning. You have to learn how to study as you're learning the topics. Because if you don't know how to study, then you're in a lot of trouble. So again, let's talk about the basics, because there's only three parts to communion that really matter. And here's the thing: you're going to learn today. You should have read it. You should have read about it, but you're going to learn today the three components of communion. But in reality, when you're actually communing, you don't actually think about these things. They just once you learn how to do it, which will take years, it'll. I mean, those things just happen. You know. So
I had a good question about communion too. I learned that.
okay.
My wife and I were sitting down. Oh yeah, okay. Don't really cut in like this, but communion. When we were talking about when I was reading up on communion, it was I wanted to find out how do um, how do when it comes to communion with a believer and an unbeliever. You can have communion for believer because you share the same incorruptible seed, you're born again. That's that sort of stuff. That you have that in common.
Yeah.
Being saved. But um, I just wanted to know more about when it comes to the unbeliever.
Yeah.
Because even with like what's that, Jacob. Remember Jacob when he went over to this one particular man's house, and when he was coming, when he was coming back, there was some communion in that somewhere. There was communion in that. I wanted to learn, well, if we're not supposed to have communion with unbelievers, how does it all work?
Well, that's the thing. That's the what's the word? That's kind of a misunderstanding.
We talked about that, didn't we?
Because here's the thing. Communion is a very general term. There's secular applications, there's kingdom applications, and then there's the whole issue of fellowship. And we have to address all three of these things to have a proper understanding of biblically what communion is. I don't even know if he's here. Well, is that Paul?
No, my phone. Nope.
Oh, you can see. I didn't think it was Paul. All right, so we just started. So we need to get started, and we need to really start answering some questions. So why communion? And then we'll get into what it is. But without communion, or let's say this, communion is what allows me to receive the necessary information to have a true relationship with Yahweh. Without communion, there's no way I'll be able to discern the things that he gives me. So we know that he gives us things, but you ever notice how there are times when we know he gave us things, but we just don't know what to do with it? What do we do this, Lord? The reason we don't know what to do that is because we don't have communion. All right. So what's the basic definition? And Nelson mentioned it earlier. It's the act or condition of sharing. Yeah, when I'm in communion, all I'm simply doing, and as I said simply, is sharing things in common. So when Justin and I sit here and we talk about basketball, for example, right? That's a form of communion. It's not biblical communion, but it's communion. That's because we have common interest, and we're able to kind of get together, talk about that, right? So sharing things in common. So the nature of communion. In communion, when it comes to sharing, one person makes a specific decision to contribute a portion of something that he or she owns to another group. So I have something, you may like it, and I'm sharing it. So this right here is a form of communion. I have something you want, and you want something that I have, vice versa. When we have communion, or when we talk about other things, there are things I want from you, and then and that's what it is. But we'll learn later on that's really, yeah. Well, that'll actually help you with that thing with the Gentiles too. See, because here's the reality: Gentiles, we have something that they need. But if we have this mindset that we're not supposed to fellowship, we're not supposed to commune with the Gentiles, how are they ever going to get it? Okay? So, the Lord, he's made us a royal priesthood, he's made us a holy nation. Well, you can't be a priest of somebody that you're not communing with. Now, with that said, that doesn't mean that you participate in what the Gentiles do. You be an example, you give what you have, but you don't take what they have. See, what you'll find out is in most of our minds, communion is an equal sharing. That's not always the case. And you'll find out in biblical communion, that's not the case at all. In biblical communion, there's no sharing. There's no bilateral sharing. It's unilateral. Okay. So in the secular world, when I share something, it never changes hands. So, I may I'll give you this, but you don't actually know. We don't need to worry about that. So let's look at some of the issues with the basic definition. It says you cannot use this in the place of the complex definition. We'll talk about that one later. And while certain aspects of secular communion can be used, like certain, maybe says aspects, but I guess characteristics of communion, while they can be applied to kingdom life, you can't completely apply it. All right, so let's look at the two considerations, and we'll really be moving. I don't think that we're going to spend a whole lot of time on this one. So two considerations. Number one, the problem is using the word communion in the believing community is that it's not restricted to the kingdom, contrary to popular belief. And this is what Nelson was talking about. We have this thing that whether it's said or it's unsaid, that there's this separation. And there is a separation between us and the Gentiles, it's true. But we have to be open to, to having relationships with those, not just outside the kingdom, but outside of our body. Let's localize this conversation here. There are things that you guys are receiving here. For those who've been to other churches, and same thing with people in other churches. There's things that they have. Again, since we're one body, God doesn't give us everything. He doesn't give them everything. He gives everybody peace so that we can all share. And in the kingdom, and we're making application here, in the kingdom, if we have this us versus them mentality, all that does is maintains the division. No, see, there's already a division between us and them. We look at denominations. There are denominations that some people really won't even touch. Example. Y'all give me an example.
Like at the Muslim one.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe Islam necessary.
Well, no. Let's talk about the kingdom of God.
Church of God.
I know nothing about those guys.
I mean, well, we already know what we know.
Well, I'll give you one.
Jehovah's Witness.
Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah. Mormons.
Yeah, we have this thing. Oh, man, those guys are a cult. Now, granted, some of their beliefs are a little bit. I mean, everybody has false beliefs. We all, but some of their beliefs, they're kind of out there. But if I don't share the truth with them, how will you ever get it? I got a guy I know very well. Man, deep into the Jehovah's Witness stuff. But he was raised in it. That was his environment. That was his heritage. The same way I wasn't raised here. Those things have to be taught. You have to be shared. They have to be applied. So in the kingdom, if I'm not open to communing with them, and I'm leaving all this stuff here, in this house, in our church, in our local fellowship, then the kingdom is going to continue to have problems. Vice versa, or on the flip side, if I'm not open to receiving what others have. See, that's the key to communion. And when we get to biblical, you'll understand better. If I'm not open to receive what God has for me, I'll never grow. And we'll flash forward a little bit. In biblical communion, He's sharing with you. You're not sharing with Him. Yeah, I can't share with Him because how can I share with somebody that owns everything? How can I share with somebody that knows everything, that knows all about me? So the reality is, when we're not in communion with God, it's not because He doesn't want to share with us, and it's not because I can't share with Him. Well, I can't, and actually that part's true. There's nothing I can share with Him. The reality is, I don't have communion with Him because I don't want to receive what He has for me.
They say if you don't have communion with regular people or just people that have different communion, that means you don't want to receive what God has.
Ultimately, yes. But see, here's the thing with communion. The main reason, or one of the main reasons that we don't have a proper prayer life is because we don't have communion because we don't understand communion. We don't understand communion, and we don't have it because something in us does not want to receive what He has to give us. I'm guilty of that myself. One of the things the Lord had to get on me about new moon. And He asked me a question: where are you? You guys remember that question that He asked? Yep, when He sinned. And don't be fooled into thinking that I'm always where I need to be, regardless of how mature I am or immature I am. You're not always there. Why? Because there's different standards that He has on us. What He requires of a believer, it's not what He requires of a disciple, and so forth and so on. So if I'm a disciple, but I'm acting like a believer, He can ask me, where are you? What are you doing? And I had to tell Him, because that's hypocrite. My prayer life is suffering because I'm not praying the way I should be. I'm not meditating the way I should be. Ultimately, because I'm not communing the way I should be. And ultimately, because I didn't want to go to where He wanted me to
Something like
Yeah.
me.
That sounds like all of us. It's our carnality. We say we want all these things from God. We really don't.
You don't want to touch certain things.
Well, yeah. Well, let's talk about that. Why don't we want to touch certain
We don't want to change it, whatever
Yeah.
area it is. We don't want to submit.
Fear, mine
Fear.
is fear and you know, fear of what it might think about me.
Okay.
Fear of failure, fear of, I have different types of fears. Well, fear of failure, like, okay, I'm just spoke to you. Everything is going good now, and since I've been more familiarized with failing, I get to a place where, there's more requirements of me. They're looking to me as, you have to come through this time.
Yeah.
God showed you this. He delivered you from CCA, and that's,
Yeah.
like,
And that's a very legitimate concern. Is that
So,
not yet doing what
trying
I
to
need
do
to
something
do?
that you're not. That's all.
See, my thing was, and I'll speak for myself. Why I didn't want to commune because there are certain, and we'll get into this really in Passover. There are certain unleavened parts of my life, unleavened for me, that I just didn't want exposed. Because if I put myself in the light, well, guess what? Those things gotta go. Now we're not gonna get into what those things are, But for me, they're major things because I know them.
yeah.
And that's why we have unleavened bread. He gives you the opportunity to, okay, put those things away. Don't feel bad about it because everybody else is doing it. I'm trying to cleanse you so that you can get into this new year and receive everything I have for you this year. Okay. So, and that's the power of communion. He actually wants to commune with you because, again, remember his attributes. He's omniscient, he's omnipotent. And that third attribute, he's benevolent. Yeah. He wants to commune so bad, and it has nothing to do with him receiving anything from you because he can't receive anyway. He has more. So that's the first consideration. It's, we restricted to the kingdom. It's everywhere in our life. All right, the second consideration is, the spiritual state of the subject of the communion. So Gentiles think that communion and fellowship are the same. So that's going to take us into day 2. And again, I really don't think we'll be here a really, really long time. But I do want you guys to understand, because we've recently taught about communion and fellowship. So what is fellowship? Somebody. And what's the difference between fellowship and communion?
I can go without this, I can keep reading.
Give it a try. If you're wrong, I'll tell you you're wrong.
Yeah.
Fellowship. I know I read that.
It's more because fellowship is between man.
There you go.
Communion is between God and man.
So fellowship is the specific relationship between two parties they have when a shared item generates a common or familiar interaction. In other words, it's earthly communion between you and your brother.
Oh, that's right, I remember.
He said,
Fellowship between brother and.
It's earthly communion. Communion and fellowship. Here's where the terms get confusing. They're very similar, but fellowship is communion specifically with men. Well, communion with God is God. So let's look at some realities. 2, positive. The spiritual regeneration gives believers a specific ability to be in fellowship with every other kingdom believer. So anybody that's saved automatically has the ability to have fellowship with anybody else that's saved. Why? Because we have the same Spirit. You have the same Holy Spirit, you have the same Jesus, you have the same Father. We all have that ability to communicate, or to commune. Now, here's the problem. Then why am I not in fellowship with my brothers and my sisters? See, from your reading, you should understand that I have the ability. So why am I not doing it?
There's a lot of division. There's gender division,
Yeah.
financial division.
Even just, I would say, just knowledge. You could just say, or lack of knowledge. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
Education division.
Like, let's just say,
versus immaturity.
let's say I didn't know nothing. Let's just say none of it. Then he was like a non-believer. Like I work with him. I mean, I wouldn't want to fellowship with him too heavy, just because I'm still learning myself, and I wouldn't want him to ask me a question. I'm just like, I'll get back to you on that. And then he loses his faith, or I lose the opportunity to help him gain faith because of my lack of knowledge.
Okay, so what did we just say? Well, when you're saved, you automatically have a commonality. So despite all the things that you name, I still have a commonality.
Right.
You know what I mean? Gender, okay, that's fair because you can't share everything.
Mhm.
You know, that's common sense. But you and I, we're different genders. Y'all are different genders. Y'all got married. You know what I mean? But we're still here able to have fellowship. So, and here's what I had to learn early on, because again, I'll always use my example. There were certain people that I didn't want to fellowship with, and there are certain people I flat out refused to fellowship with in the kingdom. Now, I was honest enough with myself to know why I did. So, and I'm not asking you to name names, guys, but who don't you fellowship with, and why don't you fellowship with them? You know, and it's a really important thing. Like for example, Nelson. Now I'll use you because I've known you probably the longest here. Okay. Nelson has things. Okay, Nelson has certain personality traits. He's got a very strong personality. I have a very strong personality. Yeah, he does, and I do too. And well, I have a different type of personality, and it's easy for a person like me to clash with a person like Nelson. It's easy for me to clash with anybody, to be honest with you.
I didn't know I had a strong personality.
Oh yeah, you do. He does.
I have to. Man, that's-
Now, here's the thing. If I take Nelson and I say, you know what, I don't like Nelson's personality, and I just refuse fellowship, I would be foolish, because despite his personality, let's say Nelson, an example, right? Let's say Nelson just a complete jerk, and nobody really likes him. He still has gifts. He still has talents. He has things that God has equipped him with to service his kingdom, right? Service his kingdom means service the members of his kingdom. So what happens? Nelson's a jerk. I don't want to mess with it up. I now miss out on one of God's services. If Nelson, completely hated me, wouldn't be the first, right?
it's not this.
That's exactly it. You would miss out on things. There are people out there and completely disagree with the way Brother Jeff runs things in our church. There are people there now who completely disagree with the way things are run. And I commend them because they're still here. But there are people, and you've seen them, who should be here. But because they have disagreements and whatever, and they refuse to fellowship, they left. Now they gave up their blessing. Now, can God bless them? Yes, they can. But did God call them here? For a lot of them, yeah, I believe He's called them to be here. You know, their gifts and their talents from a parent, they just couldn't get along with.
And that just
That's the one way, I guess, when we look at the person instead of looking at God.
Yes.
You know, we allow that to get in between our relationship with the Lord. Like one of the hardest things as a person being married is how I treat my husband is simply a byproduct of my relationship with the Lord. You know, but we don't always see it that way. You know what I mean? And we allow this to get in the way of
There you go.
that.
Exactly.
and that just with like kingdom fellowship or kingdom communion, or is that with communion with all people? You know what I mean? Like, so let's just say Spencer and you at work. Remember when you used to work with Spencer?
Yeah.
Or Barrett would probably be a better example. So should Barrett and Aisha not talk to Barrett per se, unless it's necessary because she specifically doesn't like him? He's not necessarily a good worker. He's not necessarily sharing anything as far as his beliefs is concerned.
You know,
should she still fellowship with him?
He actually brings up a good point.
You know what I mean?
For those who, let me kind of get you up to speed. Aisha was my old boss, and there's this guy that she brought along. He was really weird, like really, really weird. To the point where like nobody really liked working with him anymore because he was just so weird. They ended up firing him later on. And nobody really just he was so
Around the edges.
he was just really weird. Like you didn't want to be around him at all. You know, he would just freak people out, right? He would. I mean, let's be honest. He would. But you know, I think there is an application that you can make in the kingdom because the reality was when he was there, he was a teammate. He worked with his staff. You know, he brought some good things to the table. You know, so you have to be able to work with people like that, and that's the reality. Is, you know, with us, we have to learn to work with each other. Otherwise, either we're just going to break the fellowship completely, and it's going to be awkward for the rest of our lives, or somebody's going to have to go. Yeah. So fellowship doesn't mean that I'm going to be friends with everybody.
Right.
I mean, we should clarify that, and that's a good point. Is I have to be able to work with you, but that doesn't mean that we're going to get along all the time, right? And you guys know this. For those who have siblings, I have a sibling. You have Montana. You know, you're not going to get along with your sibling all the time. Matter of fact, you'll probably hate your siblings, you know, in certain parts in your life, you know, because for whatever reason, you know, you have some disdain for them. Yeah, me and my sister's rough, man. She's weird.
Did you say she's weird?
Yeah, my sister's weird. You met her. You met her, right? You know, she's not mean. She's not rude. And I love her. Trust me. I love my sister. Sometimes just like, yeah. Well, no, I think that like, so she's pretty rough. But at the end of the day, I know I can work with her. I know I have to work with her. I still love her. You know, and that's the main thing is we have to learn to love each other despite how we feel.
And how did that love? I'm not trying to go too far into this, but how did that love look when it's like, say, specifically somebody you dislike, like that you're not related to, that you don't go to church with,
Yeah.
and you don't really have a necessary need to communicate?
So
I'll
this,
show you how to.
well, let me answer this question first. What does Scripture say that love does?
Covers all sin.
Forgive.
It covers a multitude of faults.
Are you talking about like just in general, like all the things that's talking about love?
Yeah.
Does it all go account
And
for
then
wrongdoing?
Corinthians 13 that reminds us.
He talks about all the things like
Yeah, I got that on my background. That's my walk record. Patience, kindness, and
Patient,
Do you
right?
I don't believe it we're talking about?
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't necessarily think that me. I don't think I'm withholding this. It's just like the person basically. I'll just try to make it real quick. The person basically threw somebody on the bus at work. Like somebody, we have a group meeting application. We post stuff on there. Somebody's phone was messed up. This individual let them borrow a phone, knowing their phone was messed up. They didn't start using that phone, however. So they posted something political and all this like perverted talk in GroupMe. The person never posted in GroupMe, so being aware of the situation, I understand they didn't do it intentionally. You know, it wasn't intentional for them to post it on the work GroupMe. This guy, other guy, comes into work the next day. The manager's talking about why would this guy do that? That's so stupid. Why would he do that? He had just done it on purpose. Like, why would he do it? I'm like, you know he didn't do it on purpose. Like, you shouldn't be talking to him about it. You shouldn't be talking to us about it. And this other guy comes in, oh yeah, he did it on purpose. Yeah, he definitely did it on purpose. This is the guy that let him borrow the phone. He gets next to the lady and says, well, what exactly did he do? What did he post? But how do you know sit there and condemn him saying he did it intentionally? You don't even know what he did. So everybody aware of that situation. Stop talking to that person, you know. If there's some work related, like, hey, we need you to come up this customer, they don't know how to hook up your Bluetooth, I'm gonna come do it. You know, if you're like, hey, I got this lady coming in, I'm listening. And then once there's no more need for this, I'm walking away. So, but I can tell that person's feeling this person by nobody talking to them, you know, about like, no matter needs to talk to you. Like, we're working, we're doing all the work, but we don't want to talk to you. Like, you're like malicious and untrustworthy. Like, why would we talk to you? You know, so that's what I don't understand. Because with this per se, you know, am I still supposed to try to treat them like a friend, and even though I don't want to be their friend and I don't want to talk to them? That's really the question. I'm like, who gonna answer
Well,
I heard
I
your
have
story.
an example.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so at work, there's a couple of people that have kind of wronged me. One person wronged me, and the Lord told me to give them a journal. And I was like, why, Lord?
You are good.
But I did what he said, I prepared that, but then afterthought was, I didn't want to do that. I did that, you know?
Yeah.
But then there's another person at work that I know is my enemy. They have shown themselves to be my enemy. And the Lord did the same thing. Give them a journal. Do this. He even allowed it to be the right color.
Oh.
Her favorite color is pink. I didn't know that was pink. And I don't even like that color like it was light pink. But I had gotten like a whole bunch of journals and just periodically go and say, okay, this is that. So the way that I handle her at work though is I speak to her. And that's about it. That's about it. I pray for her. And if we have to work together, we can work together fine.
Yep.
Even though she doesn't really like to work with me. So
Right.
a lot of times if she works with me, she tries to make it look like she's doing all the work, even though she's slower than I am.
Yeah.
So, you know, I just kind of have to stay on the ball, pay attention, see when the work is there, just move on it. But I just kind of keep it business with her. But at the same time, if she asked me for something or needed something, I wouldn't just turn her away. That was some money like that.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay,
But they just want to talk
other
about
things-
lunch. You gotta talk to her about lunch. Just
Yeah,
because
if she
she
wanna
has to
talk. But she's not gonna talk to me because, like I said, she's made herself into my enemy.
So you have a little.
You and here's the thing, God doesn't expect people to just get together and then forge friendships, you know. And He understands that we're not going to get used to everybody. You ever seen that movie, American History X?
Yes.
You seen that? You guys seen it? It's really like a racial relations movie. It's a really good movie. There's some gruesome parts to it, but the message was good. And there's a part in the movie. There's this guy, Edward Norton. He's like this white supremacist. Kills a guy, right? That was trying to break in his house or something. Trying to steal his car. Trying to steal his car. It was a black dude, and he was racist anyway. So he came out, he kills the guy, and he curb checks him and like smashes his face on the ground. Right? Very disgusting. Anyway, so he goes to jail, and you see the point of it here. So he's in jail, and he got a job folding laundry in the jail, and they forced him to work with this dude that was black and did not talk to the guy. They didn't talk, he just mean mugged the guy the whole time. But and this is the illustration I'm trying to get at is over time that guy kept on talking to him. You know, it was a one-way conversation. He talked about the Celtics and all kind of other stuff, right? And this is how things in the kingdom. So over time, they were forced to work together. And it just took a matter of time before it turned from a one-way conversation to a two-way conversation. And they went from a two-way conversation to then they became friends. You know, so does God understand that? Yeah, we're not going to get along with everybody all the time. Yes, He does. But there's something strange that happens when people work together. Is you start finding commonalities. You know what I mean? Nelson, I don't know if you remember this, but Nelson, when he lived in our house, strangely enough, we talked about mixed martial arts. I don't know how that happened, but that was something that we had discussed on multiple occasions. And you'll hear him talk about it every once in a while now. So again, you know, going back to the fellowship part, you know, you have to force yourself to allow, you know, yourself to be put in those situations because you never know. You could be like this guy in jail. Now, let's go back to because again, we're still comparing and contrasting communion and fellowship. So what's the negative reality? It's spiritual regeneration. Nelson talked about this earlier. It prohibits believers from fellowshipping with Gentiles. Okay. So what do I have in common with a Gentile? In reality.
We're all
both
breathing.
breathing.
We're both ready.
Really nothing. You really have nothing. Besides the fact that you're human, you have nothing in common with them because what the scripture says is if any man be in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. So if I'm saved and I've become new, and he's unsaved and he's still old, then what do we have in common?
That's why
Oh, that's a
when you're a
good
new
point.
believer,
Yeah.
you lose, like, I've seen it happen with other people too, but you lose a lot of your worldly friends.
Oh, yeah.
I had a best friend in high school, from junior high through high school. And when we got to high school, my mom didn't let me go out, but her mom would let her go out because her mom was going out too.
Mhm.
And we started to kind of separate ourselves a little bit. I was, but I was a believer. And I was always trying to get her to come to church with me. I was always trying to, but then I didn't like overdo it. We would just talk about it every now and then, right? And when she became an adult, had her own child, her family were a family of believers too. So she was like a misfit kind of when it came to that, So eventually she started going to church and had a relationship with me too. But we kind of went the other way. Now we're still friends now, but we're still not even close friends because of the fact that we had that separation during that time. And then, even though she's a believer now, we haven't really kind of gone back to that closeness.
Yeah. And because your Gentile reality in the kingdom, it's a whole different thing. Yeah, y'all may be close in the Gentile world, but I got friends, people that I was really tight with when we were not believers, both believers now. What happened to that? Well, because the things we fellowshiped about back then wasn't the Lord.
Right.
Yeah, it was anti-God. It was everything else. So we can't get together as believers now and reminisce about it. We can, but it's not a healthy thing to reminisce
There's
about.
something else I wanted to say. When we first started talking
Yeah.
about community and fellowship, and how we have something to share.
Okay.
Well, so today at work, there was questions going around. I didn't hear it at first, but one of the ladies was like, "Oh no, come on, come on." So they asked the question, how did they figure out when Easter is? So I was like, okay, I'm sure when Easter is. They wanted to know how do we figure it out because it's a different day every year, right? So I said, okay, I'll look it up. So of course, I look it up and it talks about, it uses the first day of spring. Then it looks for the full moon after that, and then the Sunday after that. It's basically kind of how they come up with it. And I'm like, that's so complicated. So one lady was like, that doesn't even make sense. And I had printed it out, kind of put some stuff together so they could see it themselves. Yep. And I told her, or someone asked something like, well, when was Christ crucified? And I said, well, it all happened, according to the Jewish calendar. It didn't happen according to that calendar. Jesus was a Jew. So
everybody went there for that.
so it all happened around Passover during the festival. Yeah. And I told her that Passover is always the same time every year, but their calendar is based on 28 days. So it's, December 14th. So I gave her the information, but I think later on I thought about it. In her mind, she was like, well, how can my unchanging God have a different Easter every year? Have a different day every year. So I don't know if she's gonna ask me anything later, but you just never know sometimes what happens, what comes into your path.
Yes.
It's not even Nissan, it's up there.
No, well,
It's
well, yeah. It's just a different name. Nissan and Aviva are the same. It's just who called it Nissan, but you go in the scripture, it does say Nissan. But and again, but that's the point. Let's just pretend, for example, that person that you're talking to is a Gentile. Because really, you got to treat Gentiles a certain way, and even young believers too. Is if I have that mindset, we talked about this earlier, that I need to be separate, completely separate, they would have never gotten that truth from me. Right. There's some people I just didn't bother with. I was working this job this past weekend. And, it was a really interesting job, but there were some really rough people I was working with, really rough people, and I was complaining a little bit because I didn't get a break. I was on call. I've been working from last Monday. I'm going to work all the way through Friday. I haven't got a break. Man, you would not believe some of the things that the Lord had brought up, because these guys are all not just Gentiles. I was working with some heathens out there. I really was.
You told us all they was going to want to go.
Huh?
You said they was going to want to go.
No, I'm not talking about this guy. I'm talking about the other guys that I was working with.
drivers.
And them dudes, man, suddenly we were driving a bunch of Muslim guys around, and then one guy had made a joke about how, you know, about how Muslims aren't allowed to drink, but they can smoke crack. You know, I don't know why he made that joke, but because he knew a guy that would smoke crack, but he wouldn't touch a beer. You know, whatever. And that led to other conversations about religion, and now everybody's like, well, this is what I believe, this is what I believe. Now, I could have said, these guys are a bunch of idiots. I could have said that. And, you know, my carnal man was actually thinking that. Because when you hear what they were saying, you're like, oh my God, I cannot believe you look like this opportunity. And that goes back to Nelson's point is, I cannot withdraw. I can't, there's certain things I'm not allowed, I'm not permitted to share with them because, you know, you still have to guard your heart. But I also have to be concerned about the condition of theirs. There has to be sharing. But
Is it because you treat people differently because like it reflects your maturity?
yeah,
Because I know how, like when I talk to you, like sometimes I could be mean, you know, but you never come back to me and kind of throw the same amount of or level of, you know, like derogatory, you know. Or,
and here's the thing about Paul. I don't even think he's mean. But I treat people, and here's what experience, and we all have this experience, is you learn how to deal with people based on where they are and based on their personality. We all have that ability. That's not exclusive to teachers. You know, you have to take that and use your discernment, and it'll develop. But then, I guess, just become better at it.
Yeah, that's true.
Learn how to use that in the word that you have, and as you go over the Lord. Not to say that you guys don't know what to do.
I don't know, like, at what
You
age,
get better.
at what age were you good with that? Because, like, I've been for, like, 4 years, since, like, 2013, and like, I've never felt like you were anyone rude to me.
Well, that's because when I met you. Now, had I met you in my early 20s, oh man, believe me, y'all. In my early 20s, they used to call me, me and Jeff Wells, the dynamic duo of Christianity, and that was not a good term. That was not a good term. Like, man, y'all always, or at least I was always beating down on people. You know, no, and that happens not just with maturity, but it comes with him putting you in positions. I had to be put in that position to where I got no results, and and people thought negatively of me and of my God because of my attitude. You know, you get better, but again, you have to be willing to share. So we got to move on with the communion and the fellowship part because we really have to get into the elements of it. All right, so there's 3 steps in recognizing communion's connection to fellowship, and I used to touch on it earlier. So really just kind of backtracking a little bit, but we have to examine the expressions according to the Greek roots because this is where we get it. We get it from the New Testament, right? And the New Testament is translated to Greek, and that's where we get this term, koinonia. Koinonia. That's where we get the term fellowship. And koinonia in Greek, the concept is having a partnership or fellowship in common. We've been discussing this the whole night. So just know that that's where we get it. So we have to look at koinonia in its typical settings. Both communion and fellowship describe a common familiar interaction between respective members. Okay, we know that. But fellowship is essential because it's the visible manifestation of divine love in men. So understand that part, or what I just said. Why do we fellowship? Is because when we fellowship, we're showing God's love. Or we're showing God's love in us to them.
Yeah, there's a scripture that talks about that they'll know us. It's in the Gospels. They will know us by our love for one another.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
We're showing, it's kind of like saying we're showing God's communion to them.
Yeah.
Because
you love the brethren.
Gave us in His communion with us, we're giving that same thing to them, right? So kind of something like that.
Mhm.
What's called fellowship.
Uh-huh. 1. Let me pull this up. But yeah, you guys get the point. Is I have to show fellowship because if I'm not, or if I have to fellowship, because if I'm not fellowshipping with you, I'm showing that I'm not letting the love of God operate in my life.
Because if you have the love of God, you want to share that with others, right?
If you're not fellowshipping,
What's that?
If you're
you're not fellowshipping.
Yeah, if I refuse to fellowship, you missed this part earlier. If when I refuse to fellowship, because everybody knows it's easy to talk to people that you like and that you naturally get along with. There's no sacrifice in that. It's that just naturally happens.
That's not true.
Go ahead. Okay.
No, I'm just like if you like someone, it's
Uh-huh.
kind of hard to talk to them.
Really?
Like a girl.
Oh well, that's a little bit of a different application.
Yeah, like you have to practice, like you have to strategize.
We're
Like,
not talking about that. You're talking about like we like everybody here for the most part like one another.
Yeah.
If another invites you to lunch, you'll go because you like him as a friend.
yeah, I'm gonna sit closer to you guys.
Yeah.
Right. See, great example. He's got to be the anti. I don't know what happened to that chair. But yeah, it's easy for us to do that because there's no effort, there's no work, there's no sacrifice. But it's when you have to deal with that one guy. And guys, I love Tom to death. I really do. I really do. And I see people laughing because, you guys are starting to understand what I'm saying. I see why the Lord made me live with Tom. Because for a person like me, I don't normally get along with a person like Tom. But Tom and I had some weird things. Okay, Tom used to play the trumpet. I played the trumpet. So a lot of our conversations are about playing the trumpet. Had I not made that, had I not said, all right, Lord, I'm going to do what you say, I would have never known that. And it's simple things like if you know Tom, you know his passion for music.
That's the music, that's the art.
That man loves music. He loves the arts. Now, that's something that him and I didn't fellowship in because guess what? We don't have that in common. But, if you looked at me and you looked at Tom, most people would say they have nothing in common. Age gap,
Jiu-jitsu.
yeah, you vent about that. There's so many things that are different about us that you wouldn't know, but, an instrument. So, God will use that later on, right?
It's John,
First John.
13, 34 and 35. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this, all will know that you are my disciples.
Because
You have love for one another.
it is love for one another. Right.
I love that.
So that was a sacrifice.
1 John 13.
Oh, yeah.
44.
No,
Yeah,
John-
loving is a
it's
sacrifice,
John
guys.
13.
Because for me, I don't want to get hurt. So, I don't mind, but at the same time, sometimes, what the heck's happening? What the heck happens?
Well, that's the fear.
You don't want to clash. You don't know, what am I clashing with this person for? I mean, and it's not even serious. I mean, I don't even, sometimes, if it's in the body, if it's people, if it's family in the body, I'll take a chance, but at the same time, when you start getting to the place where you rubber meets the road and you're really grinding with this person or something like that, I'm always wondering, okay, God, if it's His will, okay, I guess I gotta go on that road.
Okay.
But
What does Scripture say about the iron?
I'm trying.
Right. But you're not going to sharpen iron by just holding two iron pieces of iron right next to each other. How is the iron going to sharpen each other? There has to be friction. Not just touching.
Yeah,
It has to be aggressive, and then there's going to be contrast.
Because sometimes if you don't know how to conduct yourself,
Mhm.
if you're not really good at, if you kind of rough around the edges like I am, and then you don't want to step on toes or injure people.
Yeah. Well, and that's the
or
sacrifice.
I get scared,
Yeah.
I get to a place where I get scared, like, man, I don't know. When this guy just said this to me, and he, I'm talking about in the body where I've had friction with people that, man, I'm like, I mean, then you look back and like, it's fast forward versus being out there like this past week where this guy want to beat my brains in, just because actually he want to fight me for I guess
Now, was he?
mouthing off to him about because he was looking at me crazy. And I was going inside the store because he thought I was going to run over his kid. I wasn't, and I was so far from that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hold on. Let me stop right there because, and that's the part of the sacrifice is this.
year.
Yeah. Well, no.
Yeah.
But see, here's the thing. You already know that fear isn't from God. You know. So to deal with the fear again, how do we cover fear? Yeah. Love casts out all fear. How does it do it? Because it covers all faults.
Yeah.
So. The fellowship thing, and again, this may not be what we're talking about because we don't even know if that was a believer or non-believer or
That's what I'm saying. I didn't even know
Right.
if he
so
was.
that doesn't apply
Yeah, but
because you don't even know.
I guess it goes back to saying, you know, how I conduct myself in public. I'm saying I'm this believer
Yeah,
in Christ.
that's fair.
You know, and then I sit there and there it is. You know, I have this guy coming at me all rough and all disrespectful.
Yeah.
And then I had to, you know, then I got to a place where I'm like, okay, this guy's really going to probably kill me if I don't
Okay.
do something
No.
to him. In some ways, I'm thinking because just the way he's coming off, he's not going to play with
Now here's the thing. Hold on. Part of what you're saying is correct. You know, you have to start dealing with the conduct, and we might as well talk about it. The conduct has to be adjusted. You know what I mean? On your end, because you can't deal with what they're gonna do.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Now, here's what you did, and we all do it to some degree. Regardless of what you think they're gonna do, you have to start conducting yourself as an ambassador of the kingdom. You see what I mean?
Because I mean, all the time I don't see it, but you know, it's not like every time. I think I have this. I've been clashing with this because, like, okay, to be an ambassador, it sounds like they got to rub. You know, these people don't wipe their foot on me. You know, have their way with me. Like what?
Okay.
I don't know about that.
But then they killed Jesus.
When they're trying to have their way with me, and I know openly they're probably gonna injure me.
But what do they do to Jesus?
What does God want? I mean, is that
What do they? Hold on, you gotta answer my question.
No, I'm hearing you.
You gotta answer the question. What did they do to Jesus?
Well, they killed him.
There you go. So does it get worse than getting killed by the Gentiles? No, but he still had to be an ambassador. Now, am I saying that you're gonna get killed? No, but what I'm saying is, no, reality. You're dealing with the people that
And we
That
represent the
really
Lord.
I
We
struggle.
represent our daddy.
I struggle on my job with my behavior.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's moving to Texas and people are different. I don't know what it is, but I have never acted out on a job the way I act out here. Never. So it was in there, right? It was in there, and I struggle with that. And I know that I have to find a different way to try to communicate the things I'm trying to communicate. Even if they are quote unquote wrong or whatever, my behavior is still out of pocket.
Yeah.
and that's all you
That's
can
what you're
control.
basically saying. Like, for example, like, just very quick. Like, I went to Cool Runners this weekend, and some guy tried to start a fight with me because I'm not a roster and I have locks. What was my response? My response, I didn't even acknowledge it at all. Because at the end of the day, if you're not physically doing anything physical, I can't come at you physically. You want to battle with words? I don't spar with words. So you can talk all the rest of the vendor. It doesn't affect what I'm going to do. I'm here at a good time. So you can be mad, but I'm still going to enjoy myself. So for example, like in your situation, if somebody gets mad at you, wants to look at you crazy and say whatever because they thought you were about to hit your child, so just keep going forth like you were. And then there's no situation at all. You know what I mean? That's the way you do it. You just avoid the conflict. Anything that you put into the situation does not help guys, it's going to cause more conflict because there's already a conflict there, you know? You just have to move yourself in the situation. Either leave the area or just don't acknowledge it. Because if it's a time to where you have to protect yourself from danger, you'll know that there will be no doubt. You won't be thinking, you'll just respond like I throw a punch, you're not gonna think, oh man, he's trying to kill me. You're just gonna move out the way. But you see a punch coming. So if you have time to think about the situation, that means you have time to read the situation as well, you know. So just don't entertain it. Just do
Yeah,
it.
I kind of look back and like similar situations. There are times when I did good, but there are times when I look back and I say, you know, I was sitting in the car and I was trying to eat something. And to make a long story short, I was far from hitting this kid. But when he looked at me, you know, he looked at me like, you know, what you doing? You want to hit my car? Something like this kid or something like that.
And I'm gonna cut you off, and I'll take one more, but understand, and you should understand this. Parents will do crazy things when they feel that their children are in danger.
Oh, I understand that. That's why I'm a fool. I try to, but I think my thing is just trying to learn how to deal with situations.
No, you have to do it yourself. Yeah. That's the point. Is you have to, when you feel it coming, that's when crucifixion happens. I got to deny myself, and I'm going to take yours. And
At the end of the day, you have to be accountable for your Lord. You know, like forget what the outsiders would want to do to you or what you want to do to them. It's like what he was saying. It's for the kingdom. You need to be a representation of that. And a lot of times we can be, we're doing the right thing, but sometimes we're not. You know, and I'm a victim of that. Last few days ago, I left my job. I quit my job because this guy threatened me on the spot. You know, he threatened me, wanted to do something. I got to watch my back. Accused me of fabricating things, all the whole 9 yards. Then I didn't even get a chance to defend myself.
Right.
You know, like what am I supposed to do? How am I going to defend myself when someone threatens me and leaves?
And I did the stupid thing. I told Paul to punch the guy in the face. I was joking with him.
I know you were joking.
He did?
But
No, I
Oh.
no, you were joking.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't even have a chance to. I don't have the time, or he never gave me the opportunity to punch him because he left the scene. So
Yeah.
I'm unemployed again.
But and again, and there are times, and you're just going to be. People going to do you wrong. You're going to be done wrong.
So
And what
my
do you
question is like, how do you represent, yourself in a way that it's, conducive to the kingdom, your kingdom focus,
Well, yeah, and a lot of, and again, I have to move on after this, but what you're going to realize when the Lord puts you in certain situations like that, sometimes it's not even about the other person.
It's about you.
For you, it's always about what's he doing with me? What am I learning from this situation?
Right.
You know?
And for those 2 weeks, I was cognizant about my surroundings. But when I was put in the sales office, I've never worked with this guy, and all of a sudden it flipped.
Yeah.
I thought I carried myself well. I was sharing the Lord with people that I worked with in the past. And when I was put into the sales office, it's a total different script. It's like what?
Yeah.
I don't think I carried myself well because we're not even gotten a chance to represent myself. How I should, how we should represent ourselves.
Well, yeah. And I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna stop and I'll move on. But we do have to deal with this, with how we believe that you're supposed to represent yourself. And sometimes there's misconception. Is there a time? Think about it. All right. Jesus went into the temple. Where he had, say it again.
He turned over the table.
Jesus got pissed, man. He was mad because because there's a time and there's a place to get angry. What's the why am I getting angry?
So on this situation, did he have a chance to get angry, or?
I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting angry.
What you do?
Yeah, it's be angry and sin not.
I know,
I'm not saying that you sin. What I'm saying is, just because you get angry doesn't mean that's it's automatic time to flip tables over. No.
I was at AutoZone there. The one of the guys there saw what was going on, and he got in the way of the guy trying to come inside. And
Yeah.
I told him, I'm like, I shouldn't have said this, but I said, I said, let the bully.
Yeah, it seems that's where you should stop.
don't let that bully come on in because I had some mace for him. I had some pepper spray
Yeah,
for him.
and that's what you should
And I had that for him. You know, so I was sitting there and I was like, yeah, as soon as you come to punch me, I'm about to spray this whole, you're about to be on the ground.
And that's it. Let me tell you, this is why you're gonna keep going in circles.
But I did not confront him. I did not go after him.
I know.
But he was coming after
But you know the intent. But he knows the intent. You know, there are times that it's just time to walk away. And you're talking to me. I like fighting people, but sometimes it's
I hate fighting.
Yeah.
I hate fighting. You can't fight everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
well, yeah, and I know he is.
I hate fighting, but these days people are so extreme.
Yeah.
I'm prepared for the extremes. That's how I feel.
No, he really
I
doesn't.
hate to fight.
Nelson doesn't. He
I
doesn't
hate
fight.
fighting. I hate clashing with people. As a matter of fact, I love people more than I.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Nelson.
But for some reason, I think God is trying to teach me something that I'm trying to like, how do I do this? You know, I don't know how to do this. Because
You
people are kind of they're rugged, they're rough, and when I really pull back and try to let myself follow the Lord, I feel like a lot of times, man, I'm getting kicked all over the place.
Right.
I just don't know how to handle that.
You get kicked all over the place. That's what happens.
You know, like a soccer ball getting kicked all over the place.
Or you walk away and no one
then-
kick you.
Yeah,
But here's the thing. When you start talking about I'm going to start macing people, that's when we have issues. Now I do have to move on, guys, because we're like halfway through. All right. So commonality between fellowship between fellowship and communion between kingdom members. Again, it's the same thing because it's the sharing of interests. For example, we share the same God, but we also share the same goals. Like in this case, we're sharing this whole thing about prayer, right? Or we're sharing the learning of prayer. So let's talk about the atmosphere. In both communion and fellowship, there's a congenial atmosphere, meaning, there's kind of like, we're all friends, I guess we're going to call it. It's all positive. And the atmosphere, it's the body of Christ. Now, commonalities between fellowship and communion between kingdom members is in the kingdom, we're on equal terms. We're all born the same. We're all babies. We all progress through the same kingdom life cycle. So we have those things. Nobody here is better than anybody else. All right. So this is where we get into the differences. In a technical sense, the two aren't similar. In prayer, now we're jumping into members, or I guess communion with members and the communion with God. In prayer, we talked about this earlier, only God's interests are shared. I'm not sharing anything with God. What is the atmosphere? Between members, it's congenial. We're all on relatively equal terms, right? And when you're dealing with God, well, let me back up. In a congenial atmosphere, there are no demands on each other. We just share, and nobody has to do anything they don't want to. It's different in communion with God. In communion with Yahweh, He has very specific demands on you during the expression of prayer. For example, the postures. He told the people, "This is how you're gonna approach me." Right? So He does have demands on you. He's not lax when He tells you to do things. God is He's very specific about what He wants. So again, we should all receive. There's a difference between how we deal with men, and we know this conceptually, and how we deal with God. No, we're not in a friendly atmosphere of God. He's still holy. We're still doing it His way. I'm not here to tell God, even though He'll permit me to tell Him things, but I'm not here to tell Him how things should be done. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, no, I have no input in communion, because
I don't know why I don't get that. Like, why can't I just get it and just be done with it already?
Because you
Well,
refuse to.
I'm like, He said this is the way it's supposed to be, and just okay.
Well, see, here's the reality.
You know,
Because of that, that's why He won't talk to us a lot of times. And a lot of us, God doesn't speak to me. No, He wants to speak to you, but you got to be willing to hear what He wants to say.
Because of formality, you don't know how to approach them.
I mean, that's part of it. I mean, when you're ignorant, he deals with you based on that ignorance. He's not gonna. If you don't know, then you just don't know.
I mean, he didn't speak to the Hebrews or Jews in Egypt for 400, 500 years, right? I mean, what do you call that? Is that like,
I don't
because
understand what you're trying to say.
when the Jews were in Egypt
Um,
as slaves, there was a point there where he didn't speak to them for a certain amount of time.
Right.
That's a long time. For him, it may not be, but for human, the way humankind, I guess it's a long time.
Mhm.
I guess, is that like because there's a lack of disconnect of how they pray or the
No.
morality, or
No.
he just doesn't want to talk to them?
No, well, you
Like you were
also
saying.
understand. I mean, we talked about this like week 1 or 2. I understand when that happened in terms of the period of time.
You mean Old Testament?
Yeah, not just Old Testament. That was pre-Moses.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even
Right.
have protocol to violate. As far as our prayers go, they were there for a different reason. I mean, they were there for a historical reason. As far as all time, they were in bondage because there's things that we have to get from that. Because even in bondage, you can worship your God. Even in bondage, they didn't forget who their God was. They never lost their identity, for the most part. They didn't lose it. That's why Moses could come and save however many millions of Jews there were. Okay, so the next part is the equal terms. Yeah, Yahweh and man are not on equal terms, whatsoever. I'm not here. Hey, Yahweh, how are you doing, bro? That doesn't happen anymore. We don't approach him like that. No. I am there, and he's my Adonai. Even though I may not understand him yet as Adonai, but he is still my Adonai. And who remembers what Adonai was? What were the 2 ways he relates to man?
Servant and wife.
Servant,
Bride.
servant. Well, and that's how we relate to him. How does he relate to us? It's just the other. He's our master, and he's our husband.
Yeah.
My master and husband.
Yeah, and we're his servant, and we're his bride. So as his wife, well, guess what? He sets the pattern. He's El Elyon. I follow the pattern. As his servant, he says, I do.
The highest, right?
Highest is good. So, and again, we have to understand that when you're communing with man and you're communing with God, it's 2 separate things.
Does God have a sense of humor?
Yes.
Yeah, we do. We may hate those shit.
I would say,
It's that bad.
and he's dealt with me in funny ways.
Yes.
All right, and we really have to start picking up here. Now, let me get to this part before we get into the last three elements. If I don't have fellowship, and we're going to put it together, if I don't have fellowship with man, there's no way I'll have communion with God.
No fellowship under the sun.
Yeah, if I refuse to fellowship with man, and I'm basically cutting off an avenue of him to bless me, there's no way. I mean, because I'm already being rebellious. There's no way. And again, remember what we said in the beginning. Without communion, I cannot understand. I can't even receive things that he has for me. So, how do I know? What did he say? If I'm not faithful with little, I'm going to be faithful with a lot. So if I'm not going to obey by fellowshipping, what makes me think that he's going to want to share his interest with me? I shouldn't say it that way. He wants to share his interest with me, but what makes me think that he will if I'm not going to obey when he says to fellowship with man? All right, so realities of divine communion as kingdom members, we do not share interests with him. We know that. Communion enables members of the kingdom to discern his will and be at peace with him. I will never be at peace with God. I will never know his will if I'm not in communion. Okay. Kingdom members enjoy his divine presence when they come into communion with him. If I'm not in communion with him, I will never experience anything as far as his Shekinah, his presence in my life.
No, that's believers first, and then the unbelievers too, right?
I got to be at peace with all of them. Now, that doesn't mean again that they're going to be at piece of me. But I gotta be faster here. So and we really could. I'm not going to, but we really could wrap it up there. Because there's some things about communion that I do want to talk about. See, communion. Let's go off the script. Communion is a state of being. It's a when the scriptures say to walk in the Spirit, understand what it's really talking about. Be in communion. When I say being in communion and it being a state of being, um, it's not something that I can enter in and I can exit out. You know, man, I'm trying to conceptualize this for you.
So it's intimate.
Intimacy.
There is intimacy, but when I say it's a state of being, it's something that you can literally always be in. From a technical perspective, you can always be in communion with God.
Like Jesus was, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we can have that experience with Him. Now, reality, that's not the case because you're still dealing with the carnal part of your being. But you have a spirit that's regenerated, and that regenerated spirit can always be in communion with Him. You know what I mean? So, what's our problem with prayer? What's our problem with worship? Is our carnality keeps us from that communion with Him. So the older you get, the more mature you get, the more sanctified you get, the better your communion becomes. The better your prayer becomes, the more obedient you become, because I'm now receiving more from Him. Yeah, when I'm in communion, He can pour forth into me. I can take that, I can apply it, and I can become even more sanctified. So you kind of see how this works, right? The more sanctified I get, the more communion. The more sanctified, the more communion. It's a cycle. And it really starts to pick up steam and work to your advantage. The more you sacrifice, the more you crucify yourself. Okay. So again, strive towards living a life of communion more consistently. Because right now we get it in bits and pieces. We'll get I'll do it in prayer, I'll do it in worship. But no, when you go home on Friday night and then you get into Monday and Tuesday, you should still be communion. Our reality is okay. We get into communion on Friday, we get all excited and rah about God, and then it starts to wane, and then we get back to Friday and we pick up again. Right? No, see, this life is to be consistent. This life is, we want to avoid the highs, we want to avoid the lows, and kind of stay in a place to where oh yeah, but the highs can be bad too, even though they're great. See, when you get addicted to that high, and again, I'm not saying don't get to that place with God. But when you get addicted to it, you expect that to be the norm. That what happens is when you get from there and then you hit the ground, you're like, wow. No, and that scars you. That hurts your soul because I have an unrealistic expectation of my relationship with God. It's not always up there, and it's not always down here. It should be here, and then I'll go up. Sometimes I'll come back down, or sometimes I'll go down. But when I have realistic expectations and I understand how this relationship with God works, it doesn't hurt me when I hit the bottom. You learn that. All right, so there's 3 elements in communion. And we're not going to spend a whole lot of time with it, even though I have a lot of notes on it. Paul, you did miss in the beginning. I lost the outline. So we're kind of winging it a little bit today. All right. So what's the first element in communion?
Oh, the UIC.
UIC. There you go. And I think Laura taught about that a few months ago, right? So the first one is unity. In prayer, it's the type. It is the type that brings out a state or quality of being one with Yahweh. I'm going to introduce to you guys a new concept today. I think it's new. It's a Hebrew word, ikad. Who's ever heard that term? You guys know what is it? What does ikad mean?
To be one.
Okay.
Praise God.
ECHAD. Just hold on to that. It's the quality of being God with Yahweh. Unity truths. The essence of unity in biblical communion resets on the application of the word Yahad. That doesn't even make sense. Skip that part. We don't need to do that. It's a divine unity. All right. So, anybody ever heard of the Shema? And this is where we're going to talk about Echad a little bit more. The Shema is Deuteronomy 6:4. It's a prayer that he had commanded that Israel recite frequently, right? So, in the Shema, Deuteronomy 6:4, hear Israel, Adonai our God, Adonai is one. In the Hebrew, that reads, hear, or Israel, Adonai Elohim, Adonai Echad. So what is it saying? It does mean to be one, but it means it's a united one. So are God and I one? No. I mean, we are. I mean, we're not equal, right? But for most part, or a lot of parts of our day, we're not in communion. We're not united with Him. So when I say Echad, what it means is I'm united with Him. I have to be reconnected to Him. All right. So unity is basically the quality of being Echad, of being connected to Him. Okay, so divine unity. He is triune. We talked about He's Elohim. He operates in an Echad fashion. So God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit, they are united as God. However, they're still separate entities. So the same way that those three entities combine and become Echad, that's how our spirit, our soul, and our body are, right? But that's how our spirit is supposed to be with Him. It has to be united. Now, so we'll always maintain that quality of being an individual, but in unity, we're connected. I just don't want to say united again, but we're connected to Him, and He's able to pour forth into us. Okay, so let's look at some realities, and I do want to skip a lot of this unnecessary stuff. The only way for me to be in communion, there's only one way, guys. You cannot be forced into communion. I have to voluntarily commune with Him. I must voluntarily submit my human will to the divine will of the Echad Yahweh. So, back to Nelson's example, that AutoZone, right? Those things aren't gonna magically go away. Those situations that I'm put in, they just don't stop happening.
I hate that.
Yeah. No, you should love that.
You should go away and stop.
No, you should love that. Why? Because the reason you should love that is because,
You should love it.
yeah.
That's some dangerous stuff, man.
No, but you should love the fact that it doesn't just go away.
God's still trying to teach you.
No, because here's the thing. I should love, because love says I voluntarily do things for Him. He voluntarily stepped down out of divinity and came to earth and did all that He did for me. Did God have to do that?
No.
No. Right? So there's a possibility that we're all just here waiting for death and waiting to go to hell. Right? Except He volunteered Himself. So He expects the same thing, because what's that law? Like treatment. I should treat Him. I need to treat Him the way He treats me. So the same way He volunteered His life, I need to volunteer my life. I need to volunteer my persona. Persona, right? What's my persona? Who I think I am. Because who I think I am, it doesn't matter who I think I am in His eyes, because I'm who He's called me to be. But I'm not going to be who He's called me to be unless I voluntarily crucify my persona. So, Nelson, everybody else here, when these things happen, I can respond the way that I naturally respond, the way that my persona says I should respond. Or I can be who He called me to be. Right? We're to be at peace with all men when we can't be. So, when those things happen, if I have the opportunity to be at peace, well, guess what? I should be at peace. I should voluntarily make myself at peace with all men.
What do you think opportunity poses itself?
Yeah.
Because there's some people that do.
Now, here's reality. Now, if that man comes and starts punching on Nelson, then I'm not going to I shouldn't expect Nelson to just stand there and do nothing about it.
Yeah.
However, if he doesn't do anything, I need to be at peace.
So what if something happens, like the guy would actually threaten me and kill me?
Well, I mean, you don't let him just kill you, but
I'm gonna fight back, of course.
yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. Is until that scenario happens, you be at peace, if at all possible. Again, we know that we're always that's not a reality. It's not always going to happen. There are going to be times that we have to take care of ourselves. We have to take care of our families, things like that. But
The reason that we respond the way that we do be because we're not in communion.
it could be,
Because like I find myself like sometimes I do really well. You know what I mean? Like they come at me crazy, I don't respond, or I let stuff roll off, or I say what I need to say, but I say it in a better way. It doesn't turn into like an argument. But then there's sometimes I feel like that before I know it, this thing has happened, right? And I'm like, oh crap, that didn't accomplish anything.
Let me get to this next point because I'm reading it and it kind of connects to that.
Okay.
So the second reality is the only acceptable unity is the one that promotes harmony between myself and the Creator. So if it's a type of unity that doesn't promote unity or harmony between me and God, then it's not really unity. Now, secondary point, I must choose to become dependent on Him so that we can operate as an God. He's not going to become dependent on me, but in no way. So I have to be dependent on Him. Now, dealing with your point, when I'm in harmony with Yahweh, I will be in divine agreement with my fellow man, and I'll be in unity with them.
Divine agreement.
Yeah.
With my fellow man.
Yeah, I'll be in unity with them.
Well, I mean,
Now,
I understand that there's some people that I'll be in agreement.
divine agreement.
Divine agreement.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that you're
What
gonna-
is it? Tell me what that means.
Okay, we're in divine agreement right now.
Yeah, we
For the
are.
most part. Let's take your situation and we'll go back earlier. Because it kind of sounds like y'all are similar. You're not to the same degree that Nelson is. Would you say that when these situations happen, that you naturally have natural inclination to respond a certain way?
Not always. Not always, but I mean, I don't know what it is. I mean, I guess it could be a combination of things. I just know it's always a fight on my job. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so like the very things that I have words with, with these different people, and I've been there since 2013. Sometimes I go in and out, and then I'm like, okay, the Lord needs to fight this battle. I'm gonna just do my part, But the type of work that I do, everybody's part affects everybody else's part, right? So, okay, here's an example. I do multiple things, but one of the things I do is I do the billing on my job for a transportation company, right? I do the billing, okay? So you have all these different parts. You have dispatch, who's responsible for making sure that the load gets to where it's supposed to go, all the planning, all that kind of stuff, right? And then once they finish with it, there's a whole bunch of other stuff involved. Then on my side, there's the billing. But, we're not talking about $10 and $15. We're talking about thousands of dollars for loads, right? If dispatch doesn't do everything they need to do, then my customer refuses to pay us after we've done the work. So a lot of the clashes are, I need X, Y, and Z. Well, the load is done, right? And just do it like this. No, it doesn't work that way. The load is not done until we can collect, right? And the load is not done until we can collect, because otherwise we just work for free. And the billing guidelines are very specific. This is just one example, but they're very specific. And if we don't do it the way that they said, oftentimes the customer refuses to pay. Then on the billing side, we are stuck researching, begging for our money, all because we didn't do what we were supposed to do to begin with. And this type of stuff happens all the time on my job, right? Now, somebody new took over. It's a family-owned business, so somebody new, another family member took over our terminal. And the very things that I fight with them about, that I've been fighting with them about, and I try not to fight with them about, he's coming in and basically cleaning house and demanding that these things change.
Okay.
So why am I still fighting? And how do I get caught up in it? Because it's not my job to make you do your job.
Well, and that's the good question. Why are you so fighting?
I don't know.
So
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I struggle because sometimes I do good. You know, sometimes I'm able to just put my head down.
I think it's a couple of things that I mean, just she's being real modest about the demands that are put on her. Because she has a whole bunch of stuff that she has to do, and they keep adding to her workload. And then when somebody leaves or what have you, then she's still stuck doing the job of about 5 people.
well, see, and that's the thing. You need to address that with the people that are supposed to handle that.
Well, it's understaffed.
Yeah, they're understaffed.
We're understaffed.
And that's a problem that, you know, there's no really straightforward answer to that, because the real issue here is that you're understaffed. You know, and
Right.
somebody's not doing their job. Now, as
So
far as,
that's true. We're understaffed, and then
I understand, but what I'm saying is the application to fellowship here isn't there because you have these are different issues.
Mhm.
These are issues within the organization, the company, you know, that.
well, I guess my question is more like, I guess why do I respond the way that I respond? I guess that's what I'm trying to get to the root of why I
That's
respond the
you.
way I
But
respond.
you know what that is?
There's always another day.
No, it's a lack of communion.
Oh, the lack of community.
Well,
Well, that was
It's
the
a
first
lack of
question that I
time
asked.
with the Lord, you know. So that helps you.
ultimately, yes, because
Yeah.
that's how he's gonna
Yeah.
identify those issues.
Mhm.
And those issues are always gonna go back to your heritage, your environment, your decisions, and your attitudes, you know. But
So
again,
then the answer would be yes. The lack of communion contributes
oh yeah,
to
Your response.
how I respond in those situations.
ultimately, and again, remember guys, these concepts that we talk about here and all these other classes,
Mhm.
they're all connected. You know, we isolate them for the purpose of the class, but they're not, you can't isolate them. You know, we talk about sanctification. We talk about HEAD. You guys remember that, right? So how does he deal with your HEAD? Well, he does it through sanctification. How does he sanctify? He sanctifies you through communion because, all right, and you'll learn this in salvation. He does it through communion because he has to identify it so that it can convict you and then you can repent of it. So
Right.
you take all these different concepts and and as you master them, you know, you really start to see how they play together. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that are happening that when you take your DI through your later classes, you'll really see what's actually going on. You know what I mean? Like for example, you talked about something earlier about submission to God and your husband and things like that.
Yeah.
You'll learn later on that there are 5 different levels of authority that you have to follow. If you don't follow them, you know, he doesn't like them too much. And you'll find out that marriage is actually about ecclesiastical.
Scripture than marriage.
So embrace these trials. Right?
You pass the trials. You should love the trials because the purpose of the trials is to advance you. You know, it's to cleanse you. You know.
So when they're trying to persecute you for who you are, or,
Be thankful.
you know,
Or whatever.
That's
so
Peter
when
Rich.
they're trying to hurt you, so just be thankful, right?
Well, you should be thankful if you respond correctly. You know, but you should know you're right. You should be thankful for the trial, but you should respond correctly because that's part of the
Am I ever gonna get this right?
And sometimes it'll take you years, and some it'll take you cycles.
But you know, the interesting thing is why this job? Why so many trials on this job? You know what I mean? Like,
That's the philosophy you said.
Yeah. No, there's always going to be trials in every job.
Yeah.
It's just that the nature of the trial changes.
yeah. Well, I never struggled on a job like this as far as my attitude is concerned.
Well, because that's the issue he's dealing
Are
with.
they irate?
Huh?
No, and no, that's a
Okay,
good point. It's because that's the issue that he's dealing
They just hired somebody.
with. So let's go to the next part because we still have 2. So divine harmony. See, when I'm in divine harmony, it removes all the impediments to human harmony. It does. Now, here's the problem. The problem is we're never in complete divine harmony at all times. You see what I mean? You're not always. Until you get to third creation, you're realistically not going to be at peace.
Third creation.
Third creation. Yeah, that's
You're the
another
second
fact.
creation.
We're in the second creation. I'll talk to you guys about that after class. Okay, so the only acceptable unity to prayer is the one that facilitates divine transfer. What he's saying is that when you're in unity with God, he's gonna. That's when he can transfer his purposes and his callings to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna learn my purpose and my calling, my destiny outside of communion with God. That's why a lot of people don't know their purpose, calling, and destiny. Purposes, callings, I should say, plural. So, what do I want to get out of that? Unity is his means of transfer. It's his means of bringing me into harmony, not just with himself, but with other men. Now, intimacy, that's the second one. It's the I. We got to look at secular intimacy. Intimacy, right? So, secular intimacy does not fulfill the requirements of the one needed for communion. So, what we think of intimacy is not, we're not sleeping with God. We're not doing those type of things. That's not what he's talking about. So why do I need, we'll talk about what it is in a second, but why do I need intimacy? Closeness. It's because it was lost. Yeah, man used to have, huh?
Because we were lost.
No, intimacy was lost.
Oh.
See, when man was created, he was completely intimate with God. God never asked them before the fall. He never asked them, "Where are you?" Because not only did he know where they were, he was with them.
You walk with them, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, he was.
Oh, that's
united with
amazing.
them.
I never thought about that.
Oh yeah,
That's why they never met.
Yeah.
Right. right. They immediately felt ashamed. So yeah, it was lost during the fall. They received spiritual death and physical expulsion from God, from the garden. Yeah. So once they were always close to him. The moment they sinned, and it's the same thing now. Whenever we sin, we lose intimacy.
Yeah.
Because there's something God's not going to do with sin. He's not going to look at it.
The funny thing is, like, whenever it feels like when you do that, like, I feel like I'm far away from him when I'm sinning. I'm aware of what I'm doing, that sin. I feel like I don't want to commune with him or talk to him because I feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
No, it doesn't make complete sense because you look at Adam and Eve. Let's look at the first man and woman. They sin. What do? They covered up. In other words, they did.
Okay.
And that's how we found out what the fig tree was, right? I guess you
Forbidden. Or the fig.
No, I'm sorry. That's how we figured out what the tree was that they ate from.
The apple?
No, it was the fig.
It was a fig tree? Oh, I never heard what tree. I just heard.
Oh yeah, you know what I'm saying? The moment that they sinned.
So figs is forbidden?
No, figs are forbidden, but we know what the tree was.
Okay.
That they
Is
ate.
that what they used to cover up with?
Yeah, because whenever they sinned, their eyes were open, and they said, and immediately they grabbed the fig tree, the fig leaves, and covered it up.
There was a fig tree that they bit from? Yeah. Apple, not the apple.
No, no apple.
Oh, yeah.
No apple. It was a fig tree. But again, to your point, to Paul's point,
That's what they would always do.
is the figs represent Israel, which I'll look
Right.
at. Now, to his point, yeah, that should be a natural response. Is when I sin, I should be ashamed. I should be hiding. Well, I should say should. I will hide. Because why am I going to stand for a holy God covered in sin?
When I say I feel like even, like I'm coming back to the church.
There's a place for
We'll take a breather, take a break,
repentance,
and come back.
turn away from it,
Yeah.
and turn to the Lord.
So without when they completely lost access, they lost all kinds of community and intimacy and unity.
Wow.
And here's the problem: is could they get it? Yeah, they could get it, but they didn't have the free access that they had. Yeah, at this point
They can pay for it.
they had to, they needed divine assistance.
Right.
He had to forgive them first. He had to get, remember what God did. They didn't make a sacrifice for themselves. He killed the animal. Yeah, somebody had to,
He killed the animal.
Even after they sinned, God still walked with them, right? I mean,
No.
God still have, you know, when.
no, understand, Paul, when Adam and Eve first created, he walked with them. They were with Yeshua. Yeah, they were with the the pre-incarnate Yeshua walking through the garden. They could hear his voice. They could do all those things, but after that, they were shut out of the garden. Remember the angel with the flaming sword? Yeah, he blocked out access. So could they have divine intimacy? Yes, they could have it, but they didn't have the same access that they once had. So to kind of give you an example, Satan did the same thing. Before Satan fell, he was up there with him, right? But then remember what happened when it said later on, we can read in the book of Job. After Satan fell, he can only go to God at appointed times. He can only go to God when God allowed him to come. So it's the same thing with us. There's certain protocol that we have to have before we can just approach God, right? You're not going to go to him full of sin. That's why you'll find out in the next few weeks. You have to have confession. You know, without confession, you have no prayer. You have no submission, because he's not going to just impart into a filthy child.
Can you say that again? Without confession?
Yeah, without confession, there's nothing else. You can't even move forward.
But he also called you to confess, right?
He always calls you to confess. You understand? When you're in communion and you sin, he's automatic. The moment you sin, he's already saying confess, 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 because now you're blocking everything else.
When we don't confess.
Yeah. See, but if you're not in communion, well, guess what? You don't know that he's calling you to confess. So, again, intimacy. It was lost. We can get it, but he has to invite us, and we can't get in without a confession. We'll talk about confession next week or the next few weeks. So intimacy can enhance the association I currently have with Yahweh. So the more intimate I am with him, the more he can pour forth into me. And it's the same thing with people that you know, not just your spouse, but when I'm intimate with a person. And again, intimacy is not what we think. When you have a closeness with somebody, you're more willing to share certain things. You know what I mean? Like I'll share with you guys things I won't share with, I guess, anybody else I just meet on the street, right? Because we have, again, this is intimacy. This is a form of intimacy. Okay, so let's look at his association. Creative relationship between me and Yahweh. I'm not a single entity. All right, so we know that I'm soul, spirit, and body. We don't need to know that. We know this stuff already. Okay. The plan of salvation provides restoration for missing intimacy. We don't need to know that. Yeah, we do. So the plan of salvation, it's what legally allows him to be intimate with my spirit, soul, and body. So what is it saying? It's like if I'm unsaved, there is no such thing as intimacy with God. When I'm unsaved, the best I can know God is El Elyon. Right? I should know him as El Elyon because he is the God of all men. But no, he doesn't want me to stop there. He wants to be El Shaddai. You know, he wants to be Elohim. He wants to have that covenant with us. You know, but without being saved, that doesn't even exist. So quickly, benefits that are in here. All right, when I'm intimate with him, it corrects ignorance of Yeshua's person. So the closer I am to God, the more intimate I am with him, the easier it is for those misconceptions I have of Jesus. It's easier for those to be dispelled. You know, for example, like Aisha was talking about Easter earlier. See, if I don't allow him to be intimate with me and myself to be intimate with him, those lies are still going to exist. He's not going to correct those things if I don't allow myself to get close to him. You know, so, but I hold on to those things because what's my reality? My reality is I'm not near him.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
But there's a lot of people out there who call themselves scholars of the Bible, but they just take the word on a historical and on its face value, not with what the powers of the words can do.
Right. And it is possible to be a scholar and to be very knowledgeable, but not have intimacy.
So that's a lack of intimacy, or just because?
Oh no. See, when you're intimate with God, when you're intimate with the Father, you'll do things, you'll go places that you would, that a normal person would.
You can read the Bible and not believe it.
Yeah.
You know?
The devil, well, I guess he does believe it, but yeah, there are a lot of people that know the Bible that have read it and that don't believe it. Most Christians, let's be honest and let's be gentle, but most Christians don't know are intimate.
Because I know people who know the word, who studies the word, but they go along with what the general, what man has created. You never know. And you can have those intellectual conversations, but they're like, well, you know, I know that X, Y, and Z, but.
Yeah, but there are certain truths that he's not going to be able to express to you
If you're not into
if you're not intimate. And that's why if you look at some of the great men of the scriptures, what was the difference? Like, what was the difference between a Daniel and somebody else? Yeah. You wanted to be close. What was the difference between Jesus or between John and the Peter, James, and John, and the other 9? You look at John. He was the youngest, right? He had his head on his chest. He was laying on his bosom. You look at Peter. You know, as many mistakes as Peter made, he still wanted to be by his horse. Same thing with James and John. You don't hear anything about what Matthew and some of those other guys, and Thomas. You don't hear anything about those guys. Because what was the difference? We're intimate. They followed him. Okay. You guys remember the story of the Transfiguration?
You talking about stuff?
How?
Oh,
Yeah, when they were on the mountain. The other 9 could have been up there with him. Why weren't they with him?
They were sleeping.
No, they just didn't want to go up.
They wanted to go.
They wanted to get close. All right. Don't be mistaken, guys. Not all the disciples were sleeping in the garden. Right? How do we know that? Because if they were all sleeping, then who would have wrote the story?
Right.
Yeah. They weren't all asleep. Some of them were awake. It was the ones who wanted to be intimate with him. So intimacy, like I said, it'll cause you to go places that other people won't go. It'll cause you to do things in the face of fear, in the face of again, that's the importance of intimacy. All right. And so it corrects the ignorance of the Son, but also the Spirit and the Father. Okay. All right. Let's get to the last part. And we've done cooperation. This one should be straightforward. See, in communion, when I'm in communion, I'm gonna cooperate with the things he tells me to do. So 2 steps to take to comprehend cooperation in the communion process. So how do the 3 components generate communion in spiritual worship? Unity brings you into harmony with the Creator, so that you now experience intimacy. Now that I have harmony and intimacy, I can cooperate with Him. So what's he saying? So when I'm in harmony and when I'm intimate, I'll now do whatever He tells me to do. If I miss one of those, we get one of those components, there's going to be no submission. So how do I discern the nature of the rules of human cooperation? Cooperation is the working or acting together of these 2 parties to achieve a common purpose. I don't know why I wrote it that way.
You wrote it though.
Yeah, I wrote this like 6 years ago. Yeah, I guys remember I lost mine today. So cooperation, who are the parties? It's me and Yahweh. We're going to skim through this, guys. Because all it's really saying is that when I have those other 2, I'm going to do what He tells me to do. Regardless, I mean, there's no other parties involved. When it's when I'm intimate with him, I don't care what Justin's doing. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care what anybody's doing. It's between me and him. And I'm going to do what he tells me to do. So when two parties want to cooperate, in most cases, they're willing to sacrifice personal liberties to achieve this purpose. Keep that in mind. Why am I not submitting to God? I really just don't want to cooperate. That's why. And if you can say, oh, no, I love God and all this stuff. No, then why don't you cooperate? Why don't you do what he says to do?
Mhm.
You know, aside from ignorance, why don't I do the things I do know what to do? Or I do know to do?
Yeah, why are you stubborn?
Why am I stubborn? That's the question you want to ask yourself.
Yeah, right, yeah. Why, I mean, why are we stubborn? Why am I stubborn?
So, and those are questions you need to be asking yourself. Because if you really meditate on that, again, meditation, right? If you really meditate on those things, you will come to an answer. And I know why I'm stubborn.
Why?
It depends on the issue. But ultimately, it's because I really just like to do, I like to sin.
So, kind of like that meme that I sent you,
Which one?
like, if he didn't die for us, then, I mean, if we're not sinning, he didn't die for us. So,
I don't
oh,
know. I don't remember. But again, so ask yourself, and if you're honest, your answer is going to sound a lot like what I said. I enjoy sin.
does that mean you don't love God because you're not doing what he's doing?
That part of my soul doesn't. Yeah, but ultimately, no. Yeah, ultimately, it's because the part of that part of me that lacks love for my Lord. Yeah, and I'm not afraid to say that. Am I proud of that? No, I'm not proud to say that I lack love for my Lord, but I can't lie and say that I completely love him because he says, "If you love me, keep my commandments." So what am I not doing? I'm not keeping his commandments.
If you don't sin, Jesus died for nothing.
Okay.
That-
Yeah. If I don't sin,
Oh, yeah, that's
that's ridiculous, but okay. So there's two rules of human cooperation. Number one, there's a specific purpose. Second rule, and you don't have to write this down. At least one party, well, this one you want to know, you have to write it down. In human cooperation, at least one party must forgo personal liberty. So let's apply that to God. If I'm going to cooperate with God, then at least one party has to forgo personal liberty.
And that would be us.
And that would be us. Right? Because he did that for us. So it's my turn. See, people have believed this lie that salvation is free. Salvation is not free. Salvation was bought with a price, and that was his life. But just because he paid the price doesn't mean that we don't owe him. Yeah, we owe him.
Yeah, that's kind of.
Yeah, there you go. What do we owe him? We owe him our life. Right. All right. So when any party has a reservation about foregoing personal liberty, there cannot be permanent agreement. So if I choose not to forego my liberties, there is no agreement. So satisfaction. It's this motivation for the parties to seek cooperation in the first place. If any party is not satisfied, there will be no cooperation. So I have to forego my liberties and be happy with it. Now, where you are, as far as your carnality goes or your sanctification goes, will determine your response to that statement. You know, am I satisfied with giving up liberties? I'm not going to say yes because it's a case-by-case. It's on a case-by-case basis.
It changes everything.
It depends on the issue because there are certain things. Yeah, I'll give that up. I never had a problem drinking. I never had a problem with drugs or anything like that, right? So for me to say I'm satisfied with giving up that, even though I had the liberty to do those things, I can easily say yes because that was an issue to me. But there's certain other issues that, I don't know, Lord. I know because I'm doing that. Yeah. I mean, I know what the Bible says, but I'm only human. Right.
Justification.
Right.
I can't get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm too sleepy.
Right. And that's actually valid. You know, one of my biggest struggles, even today, is getting up and doing that daily reading every day.
Say what?
That daily reading. I do it, and I've been getting, and that's, remember I asked you, I told you.
In and
that-
out, in and out.
See, in my daily reading, I mean, because I have standards for myself, but one of those things he asked me, right, when I told you about new moon, he says, "Where are you?" I was like, "Oh Lord, I'm not doing that consistently enough." So I've been doing it,
reminders.
but yeah, and those are, they seem minor, but those aren't minor things. Not just that, it's
That's what we
just
were talking about.
for me. I don't take, even though it is daily food for me. That's not why I do it. I do it because he told me to do it.
Yeah, obedience.
You know what I mean? And so that's the challenge for me is, where am I disobedient and why am I disobedient?
So we're supposed to read this every day?
Well, you should. It's not gonna, you're not gonna lose your salvation or anything like that. But he made a promise to us, and I don't think anybody here was here, but the Lord told us years ago that if you would do it, that he'd change your life.
I didn't know that.
Well, I
Well, now you do.
heard that part, but I'm a witness, that's what happened.
It's true. It's true, because you will never believe how many revelations and how many things he's done through those daily readings.
Interesting, okay.
It is.
I'm gonna start
You
reading that.
It really is.
Okay, so we're really at the end, guys. I mean, all we want is, this can all really be boiled down to one word, and that's submission. Cooperation is nothing but submission, because he's not cooperating with me. Understand, it's not these aren't my rules that he's following. It's his rules that I'm choosing to follow.
So he's not cooperating with us?
Well, he's the one who sets the standards that we're foregoing our liberties to agree with. Now, he is cooperating with us if I decide to forego my liberties. Yeah, now we're in cooperation. But the reality is only one party is only one party is required to make the sacrifice, and that's us. God doesn't compromise himself, to be in cooperation with us. No, we're the ones who have to make the compromise. So, with all that said, here's what we want to walk away with. Communion, again, it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle where it's possible for us to always be in communion. It's not practical, but he intends that we always be in communion. All right? So how do I know I'm in communion is when I'm united with him, when I'm intimate with him, and when I'm submitting to him or cooperating with him. If one of those three isn't in effect, well, guess what? I don't have communion. So,
Could you repeat that?
okay. Which part?
How do I know
Oh, I mean,
when we're in communion with him?
okay. I know it because I'm united with him. I'm intimate with him, and I'm cooperating with him. Or in other words, I'm submitting to what he tells me to do. So UIC, that's how we learn it. Unity, intimacy, and cooperation. Right? All three of those need to be in practice for me to have communion. And again, it's in communion where he gives us our purposes, our callings, our destinies, our directions, all commands. You don't want to be the guy that hears from the Lord out of rebellion or when you're in rebellion. Yeah, because now it's a different issue. Now it's, okay, this is the way you're going to be judged.
Yeah.
Because judgment's on the way.
Yeah.
You want to be the guy that, all right, Lord, I hear what you're saying, and I'm going to do it. All right, any questions? Oh, it's 9 o'clock. 8:57. All right, no questions. Let's close out this part. I'm surprised I did it without an outline. That was crazy. All right. Let's stand, let's do our audible prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for tonight, oh Lord. We thank you for your spirit, Father. We thank you for the sacrifice of your Son, Father. We thank you for the plan and the will of the Father, of your will, Father. Forgive us, oh Lord, for the times that we've been rebellious, Father, for the times that we've discounted all these elements of communion, Father. We've denigrated unity with you, Father, and intimacy and cooperation, Father. We just ask that as we go forward, Lord, that you would help us to identify those issues in us, Father, and those fears and those areas and pockets of rebellion, Father. And just help us, Father, not you, but help us to put them down, Father. Help us to deny ourselves and take up our cross daily and follow you. So, Father, have your way with us. Teach us, O Lord. Teach us, Father, how to be obedient. Father. Teach us how to pray. Teach us to be your disciple. And be glorified in the chambers, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Let's stop.